Hello all, and welcome to, well, I guess today's show, which is not a review of a beer, but instead I'm going to show you how something with pipe smoking that's actually quite difficult to do. It took me a while to go and master myself, and that is, of course, how to go and cut a tobacco plug through smoke in your pipe. So, hopefully I can see this from, oh goodness, excellent. Okay, so this isn't usually the plate I cut on. I cut on a much more beat up plate. I chose a white plate so you can kind of have some contrast and see it. The plate I usually use is a very beat up dark blue plate. And you would want to use a beat up plate and a beat up knife, preferably a still sharp beat up knife. This is not the best knife for it. It's very dull. As you can see, I'm cutting it across my hand right now. You want something sharp, but I wouldn't use a knife that, you know, a lot of pipe sites say just use your jackknife, you know, but a lot of people also use their jackknife to go and peel apples and what have you. You want something, if you look carefully on it, you'll go and see, it leaves like the tobacco tars sap and juices all along the blade, and it's really hard to get this off even with a lot of washing. So you don't really want to use a knife that you're going to be, you know, using for food or using for toxic chemicals for the other purpose. So the tobacco I'm cutting today is Peterson's Perfect Plug. Now there's different ways of cutting plug tobacco, and you can see here. I've already cut one slice off of this, but you can kind of see it's a thick, very hard bulk. Now what you don't want to do when smoking from a plug is to go and peel off, you know, the top layers and just cut those, because the layers of the plug each have their own flavor notes. So you want to go and cut straight through the plug, so you create a flake. Now some people like to use a serrated edge. I've never used a serrated edge. Maybe I might someday. So you're going to need to use quite a bit of pressure to get through it. So you got to kind of use like a chef's cut, where you get into the corner here. And depending on your taste, you can cut it thin, or you can cut it thick. I try to cut it thin as possible. Pay close attention to your fingers. I once gave myself a very bad cut doing this. Okay, and there you see we have a single flake now. It's been cut. Now if you go and see the size of my pipe bowl here, I could probably do with a little bit more, but I'm not going to, for one reason. I'm going to try it, so you can either go and roll it out, so take this flake and roll it out so you kind of get loose tobacco like you kind of have here. And you're also going to need a little bit of loose tobacco when smoking flakes, unless your flake is already incredibly dried out, because you need sort of a tinder to cause it to spark up and burn, because it's very hard to light the flake, especially when the flake or plug is brand new like this one. And still fairly, I wouldn't say it's moist, but it's still fairly fresh. It's not dry yet. And you don't really want it super dry either. So what I'm going to do with this flake is I'm going to, see here, a little bit too high to fit in. I'm just going to kind of fold it a little bit. I'm going to put some loose stuff on the bottom, because you don't want air pockets down there. Angle's not the best here. And actually, coming to think of it, I'm going to need a thin shave too of another flake. So this is going to have to be like 2 flakes. I'm going to cut off the short end of the plug now, and probably a very, very thin slice here. Oh, I just realized my arm's kind of blocking it. You can kind of see it's hard. Here it is halfway through it. Well, you can't really see it, but it's halfway through the cut there. It's a nice thin cut, the way I like it. So if you like it, you can do a cube cut, which is after you get the flakes, cutting them part ways. I like to keep the flakes intact for one major reason, and that is because they tend to have a more intense flavor when they're kept fairly intact. You roll them out and the volatiles go very quickly in the burning process. So I just went and put those flakes in, and I fairly packed them and folded them down. I'm going to get these other flakes here and put them in, and I'm just going to kind of fold them in. Looks like I didn't really need to cut the other one. And I'm going to save the rest of that because it's kind of cut a bit thick. And I want some tinder for the top here. Okay, it's nice and good. So to go and do like a cube cut, you just take this flake here and you start cutting it this way. And that gives you enough little tinder at the top of your pipe to go and light it. There you go. Kind of packing it in here. I got quite a bit left over. That's okay. You're always going to have a little bit left over. And we're almost at 8 minutes now, so I got to go and cut this short. And there you go. Perfectly cut. Right? Perfectly cut. Excellent clear draw. And it's ready to go. So I'm going to go and clean up. I'm going to go make myself a cup of, I guess some Darjeeling would go well with this. Brew up a cup of Darjeeling tea, grab my book, and go out and smoke. And you all have a great afternoon. And this is La Vida Unemployed. Salute.